Welcome to the Sugarcraft School with Rachel Hannah. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to easily cover a cake board with sugar paste so that you get a really nice finish on your final cake. So I've got my cake drum here and some tracks, which is just some vegetable shortening and my sugar paste. I'm going to go ahead and get this sugar paste conditioned so it's ready to roll out. So I'm just popping a little bit of the shortening onto the worktop so that as I start to knead this sugar paste and condition it, it picks some of that shortening up and helps make it a bit more pliable and gives it that stretch that it doesn't have when it immediately comes out of the container. This is just white sugar paste or fondant, and the brand that I'm using for this is Massachusetts Tropic from Karma. And I'm just gently kneading it, moving it around slightly, picking up that shortening, popping a little bit more on. And you can see it starting to stretch a little bit more. And you're wanting it to be able to stretch nicely without any cracking. So try and finish off your kneading by collecting the sugar paste into the shape of whatever you're covering. So in this case, we're covering a round board. So try and start with a round ball. If you were covering a square board, you would just ease it into a square shape. So that's our starting point. Now I'm going to add a little bit of corn flour or cornstarch onto my worktop just to prevent it sticking. I prefer this to icing sugar because it's finer and less grainy and will actually not cause any graininess on your actual sugar paste at the end. Okay. If your rolling pin is sticking to the top of your sugar paste like this, just pop a little bit of cornstarch on the very top and immediately you'll see that helps the rolling pin not pick up. And keep moving the paste round so that it doesn't stick, but also so that I'm maintaining that round shape. If you have any air bubbles, just pop them as you go with a little acupuncture needle or a sterilised pin and carry on rolling. Try and maintain that round shape, taking out any of those little air pockets as you go. You're wanting to work relatively fast at this stage with sugar paste. It's not something you can start and then stop halfway through and leave on the countertop. You have to keep going. So make sure that you've got the time to do this job right through to the very end without stopping before you start. One last go at those little air bubbles. So I'm just poking them and then running my hand gently over the top to get the air out. Now to check whether we've got it fairly evenly, you can use obviously the guides that you can put down either side, or you can just run your hands round and just between two fingers just check that you've got the same kind of thickness all the way around your paste. You don't need this to be particularly thick to cover a board. Make sure you do it ahead of time so that the sugar paste has enough time to firm up before you then put your finished cake onto the board. Usually I would do this at least a day in advance, but you can do it further ahead of time if you want to get ahead, and then just store them in a cake box so they're not going to get dirty or any dust on, and it will firm up nicely, ready for whenever you need it. Before you roll out your sugar paste, I would advise that you prepare your board. I've just added a little bit of the vegetable shortening on here just to get the paste to adhere to the board. You can use cooled boiled water as well, but I prefer the shortening. It's a lot more manoeuvrable on the board once you get the sugar paste on there. So when you're ready, pick up your sugar paste and just place it as evenly as possible over the board. Then get your paddle smoother with a little bit of the spare corn flour on if you need to, and just smooth it into place all over. Start smoothing that out so you can clearly see where it is on the board. And then we're going to remove this excess with a small sharp knife. So instead of putting my hand in the middle, I'm just going to use this smoother. Start in one area and just push the knife up against the edge of the board to just be my guide as I go around. And just make sure you get as clean a cut as possible. Clean off any excess bits off your knife if there's any build-up on there. Remove any excess. Make sure you pop that straight into a plastic Ziploc bag to keep it fresh. Then come back in with your paddle smoother. You can go around the side just to smooth any bits off. Just any sticking at all with those smoothers, just gather a little bit of the excess corn flour that's still on your worktop. And just make sure that any sort of raw cuts or scraggy edges are smoothed off. And you've got a nice clean edge to your sugar paste. Working all the way around. Smoothing off any little imperfections. Remember, if you're going to have a cake on this, which presumably you would, your cake would be in the middle. So if there's any little imperfections in the middle, don't worry too much about them because they're not going to be visible once your cake is attached. So we're just paying particular attention to this outside area, which is going to be exposed, and the edge. And of course, if you wanted to, you could go in with your Flexi Smooth at the end just to get rid of any, if you've happened to nick it at all, if there's any particular dents, just give it a little bit of focus with your Flexi Smoother to get rid of any little finger marks or anything you might have caught it with the tip of the knife or anything like that. Just use your Flexi Smoother because you'll have a much better chance of getting rid of those with the Flexi Smoother than the palette smoother. Okay. And that's your board covered. So once you've finished covering your board and smoothing off the edges, just leave that to one side for at least 24 hours to let the sugar paste firm up. And then it should be a lot more resistant to any thumbprints as you're handling it with the cake on it. And the cake should attach nicely to it with some royal icing. And then obviously you can attach some ribbon around the board as well. I'll show you that now. So I'm just attaching some double-sided tape around the edge of my board. This board is still soft because it's only just been covered, but obviously if you've left it at least a day, it'll be resistant to any fingerprints that you may accidentally pop in it at this stage. But if you are working on a freshly covered board, just have your Flexi Smoother to hand, and any little prints you can just go over and get rid of straight away. Okay, so then just remove the backing so that you're exposing the tacky side of the tape. And then I'm just using this as a 16mm tape and just attaching it all the way around, trying to make sure that it goes right to the very bottom of the cake board where it joins the worktop, and obviously do this on a really flat level surface. Go around to the back and I just pop a little bit of overlap on there. So you can see this is our overlapped area here. So this will become the back of the cake. I'm just going to fold that back on itself and then pop a pin through the ribbon into the board. And that's the back ribbon attached. Our cake board covered. Just get rid of any little finger marks that I've popped in there, because this is a freshly covered board, whereas usually I would leave that to set for 24 hours at least and then attach the ribbon. And that's our finished board. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you liked it, then please do subscribe to the channel. We've got loads more videos coming throughout the course of this year. And don't forget, you can come and join my free Facebook group, the Sugarcraft School with Rachel Hannah, for even more cake decorating tips and a fabulous community.